We've all been there, dropping full price on a single-player game only to realize the challenge is less about skill and more about frustrating design. But what about the games where the frustration isn't just a bug, it's a feature where the bosses don't just beat you, they genuinely humiliate you? This list is about the true high-value experiences, where every monumental monster, magical general, or mysterious entity makes you feel like a speck of dust, an insignificant annoyance they can crush without a second thought. So, are you ready to face the absolute worst of the worst in gaming, the bosses who treat your heroic journey like an afternoon snack? Let's dive into 20 single-player titles where every boss believes you are absolutely gloriously beneath them. Elden Ring is an absolute masterclass in open-world value, but let's be honest, it's also a masterclass in boss-level psychological warfare. You know that moment when you enter a fog door feeling ready, only to be met by Millennia, Blade of Miquella? Her entire presence, from the delicate walk to the infamous waterfowl dance, is one giant theatrical dismissal of your significance. The game's primary antagonists, like the towering Margit, the fell Omen, practically scoff at your gear and level, using voice lines that paint you as nothing more than a fool trespassing on sacred ground. The sheer size of some of the creatures, dragons, fire giants, further reinforces the visual narrative that you are, quite literally, an insect in their grand apocalyptic world. The combat systems are so deep and the world so massive that the value is unquestionable, but you'll be paying for that value in tears and the deep-seated knowledge that you are utterly insignificant to the great ones of the lands between. The game is packed with content, offering diverse biomes, hundreds of weapon combinations, and a staggering amount of lore hidden in item descriptions. And here's where it gets interesting. The bosses are so well designed that their disdain for you is baked right into their attack patterns, often baiting you into a premature attack before delivering a swift, disrespectful one-shot smackdown. It's a genius design choice that ensures every victory feels like you've temporarily defied the natural order, not just won a fight. It truly delivers on the promise of a massive, interconnected, dark fantasy world. But for players seeking that specific kind of humbling, few games hit the mark like this one, turning the act of being annihilated into a core part of the rewarding gameplay loop. It's an epic of humiliation, and for that alone, it's worth every single coin. When we talk about being humiliated, we must start with the opening minutes of Sekiro, because the game doesn't waste any time. Genichiro Ashina isn't just a tough first boss. He's a narrative tool used to literally take away your most valuable asset, your arm, in a swift, brutal, and completely non-optional defeat. You're not meant to win that fight. You're meant to be utterly crushed and then rise again as a broken but determined shadow. This sets the tone for the entire adventure, where the swift, deflection-focused combat system demands absolute perfection, making even minor mistakes feel like the bosses are mocking your lack of rhythm. The game's focus on posture and parrying over traditional dodging makes the encounters feel like a cruel dance, where the enemy is always leading and you are scrambling just to keep up. Mini-bosses and main adversaries alike move with a lethal, almost casual grace that suggests they are entirely bored by your attempts to harm them. Remember fighting Owl? Every time he counters your strike and delivers a crippling blow, the animation screams, "Did you really think that would work, little wolf?" Sekiro is a masterpiece of refined, high-stakes action. Its gameplay loop, centered around mastering the flow of combat and using the prosthetic tools creatively, offers incredible satisfaction. It's a premium experience where the value is in the high-octane action and the sheer mental fortitude required to overcome opponents who see you as a mere pup pretending to be a wolf. The constant, explicit condescension from your foes is what makes the ultimate victory so sweet. Nioh 2 takes the insignificant insects feeling and magnifies it with an entire roster of towering mythical yokai. This isn't just about an arrogant human general. This is about a demonic spider the size of a small house that views you as a tasty snack. The humiliation here is less verbal and more a matter of scale and raw cosmic power. When a boss like the giant Gaki or the fearsome Yatsu no Kami unleashes an attack that covers half the arena, you realize your dual katanas are basically toothpicks. Your attempts to chip away at their massive health bar are treated with the casual indifference of a giant brushing off a mosquito. The game is a massive undertaking, blending the Souls formula with a frenetic, stance-based combat system inherited from its predecessor. The complexity of the key pulse, the diverse weapon types, and the deep loot system provide hundreds of hours of quality content. But the heart of the experience is fighting these colossal beings who use your small stature as a tactical disadvantage. You spend most of the fight literally trying not to be stepped on, proving that size does matter when a boss can eliminate you with a single massive swipe of their arm. Nioh, too, rewards those who master its complex mechanics, offering a satisfying progression path that eventually allows you to stand a chance. The incredible depth of the gear and skill systems ensures a huge return on investment for the price. It's an intense, challenging ride where the humiliation of being physically dwarfed by your enemies is the delicious appetizer before the hard-earned main course of victory. Lies of P might star a puppet, but the emotional gut punch of its bosses is intensely human. The core conceit is one of constant, cruel underestimation. When you face an early challenge like the King of Puppets, the sheer audacity of its mechanical complexity and size immediately establishes a clear hierarchy. But beyond the visuals, the boss's movement and swift, punishing attacks feel like a highly sophisticated machine simply testing the tensile strength of a tiny, disposable doll. They aren't just fighting you, they're stress testing your limitations. The combat system, heavily inspired by aggressive parrying and weapon assembly, adds to the feeling of being outmatched. You're constantly scrambling to find the perfect moment to strike, only to be met with a perfect guard break that sends you flying. The bosses often move with an almost bored precision, their taunts conveyed through unnerving silence or mechanical superiority, making your frantic attacks look clumsy and desperate. You know that moment when you think you finally got a boss's pattern down, only for them to instantly enter a second phase that completely disregards everything you just learned? That's the humiliation baked into this game. This game is a brilliant, dark fantasy adventure that perfectly leverages its unique setting and character design. The value proposition is huge, with a compelling narrative, beautiful art direction, and a combat system that feels tight and responsive once mastered. It's a worthwhile purchase for the sheer elegance of its world building, even if every major encounter serves as a painful reminder that you are, in fact, just a fragile puppet on strings. Who knew a tiny, adorable bug could feel so utterly worthless? Hollow Knight masterfully uses its beautiful, sprawling world and charming aesthetic to mask a core philosophy of profound underestimation. The bosses in Hallownest, particularly figures like Hornet, don't just fight you, they see you as a fledgling, a weak vessel that shouldn't even be attempting this journey. When Hornet effortlessly zips across the screen, her movements are a silent, graceful taunt to your smaller, clunkier jumps and dashes. The sheer difficulty of the game's later encounters, like the demanding Trial of the Fool or the Pantheons, reinforces this idea that you are a small, insignificant warrior biting off far more than they can chew. The bosses treat your attacks like annoying pinpricks, absorbing them while delivering devastating, area-clearing sweeps. The game's focus on precise platforming and careful charm management provides incredible depth, but the narrative is always clear. You are a tiny speck of light trying to navigate a vast, dying kingdom ruled by entities who have endured for eons. This is a phenomenal Metroidvania that offers an enormous map, intricate lore, and a challenging but rewarding progression system, all for an incredibly low price point, offering tremendous value. It's a testament to design when a game can make you feel both incredibly skilled and perpetually insignificant at the same time. The humiliation is subtle, systemic, and utterly effective, ensuring that every hard-fought victory against a giant bug feels like a genuine, universe-defying miracle. If you want to talk about institutionalized humiliation, you have to talk about the original source code, Dark Souls. From the moment you encounter the Asylum Demon, the game establishes a cruel hierarchy. But the real condescension comes from figures like Gwyn, Lord of Cinder, and Artorias the Abyss Walker. Artorias, for instance, fights with the sad, desperate rage of a fallen hero who barely acknowledges the Hollow currently trying to scratch his armor. You're not a worthy opponent, you're just a thing he has to clear out before he can return to his actual despair. The world itself, bleak and decaying, treats you like a forgotten footnote. The core of the Dark Souls experience is the methodical, punishing combat that demands precision and patience. The deep build customization and interconnected level design provide an enormous payoff for dedicated players, ensuring its status as a high-value RPG. But the bosses are the primary source of existential dread and, yes, humiliation. They move with gravity and power, often killing you with a simple flick of the wrist. You know that feeling when you cross an entire dangerous zone just to get back to the fog door, and the boss annihilates you in 5 seconds flat? That's the game laughing at your misplaced optimism. The game's lore suggests that you, the protagonist, are just one more unfortunate soul in an endless cycle, making your struggle against these demigods all the more pathetic in the grand scheme. Dark Souls doesn't just challenge you, it questions your very right to exist in its world. It's an unforgettable, high-content experience for those who appreciate a narrative where the hero is consistently treated like dust in the wind. Bloodborne takes the Souls formula and injects a furious, aggressive pace into it, but the bosses remain just as dismissive, trading slow dread for chaotic scorn. Here, the enemies are often faster, taller, and covered in more grotesque appendages than you are. The condescension in Bloodborne is purely kinetic. When a Great One or a beast like Ludwig, the Holy Blade, assaults you with relentless, animalistic fury, they aren't engaging in a duel, they are simply trying to swat away an irritating parasite. The way they charge, swipe, and ignore your paltry attacks suggests you are nothing more than discardable meat. The game's environment, the terrifying gothic sprawl of Yharnam, coupled with its excellent regain system, makes for a supremely engaging and frantic action RPG. Its value lies in the unique Lovecraftian narrative and the intensely satisfying risk-reward combat. But the humiliation comes from the sheer overwhelming nature of the opponents. Bosses rarely pause to let you catch your breath, treating your attempts to heal or retreat as mere delays before your inevitable, messy end. Every hunter has a moment against a boss in Bloodborne, perhaps the Orphan of Kos, where they realize they are playing by a different, much lower set of rules than their towering adversary. The game excels at making you feel small and fragile, a mortal man against cosmic horrors that barely notice your existence. It's a beautifully violent, high-quality adventure that fully justifies its price tag for those who crave a humbling, yet exhilarating, fight for survival. Shifting gears from mythological titans to martial arts masters, Sifu delivers its humiliation through skill and implied superiority. You start as a young, vengeful student, and the bosses are not demons or gods, but highly trained, veteran combatants who view your attempts at revenge as a cute, albeit predictable, display of youthful folly. Each main boss fight acts as a crushing reality check, where they effortlessly dodge your complex combos and punish your openings with surgical, brutal precision. They act as if you're an incompetent apprentice. The game's value is immense, focusing on a deeply rewarding, tightly honed combat system built around mastery, spatial awareness, and the unique aging mechanic. The whole experience revolves around the concept of becoming better through repeated failure. The humiliation, therefore, is systemic. Every time you die in age, the game is subtly telling you that your current skill level is simply not good enough to face a master. The bosses aren't just stronger, they are wiser. When the main antagonist uses your signature move against you or catches your attack mid-flow, it's a moment of pure, skillful condescension. Sifu is a short but infinitely replayable premium action experience. It offers hours of content through the pursuit of a perfect no-death run, turning the initial feeling of being an inutile apprentice into a long-term motivation to achieve true martial excellence. For a dose of colorful, hand-drawn scorn, we enter the world of Cuphead, a game where the bosses not only humiliate you, but actively debauch of your failure with exaggerated animations and visual gags. These bosses, a giant carrot, a drunken pirate, a trio of singing frogs, don't take your struggle seriously for a second. When you die, they flash a taunting screen with a smug caricature of their victory, often with a phrase like "a good day for a swell battle," right after they obliterated you with a tidal wave of projectiles. The core value of Cuphead lies in its phenomenal 1930s rubber hose animation style and its tight, classic run-and-gun platforming. The bosses are intense, multi-phased bullet hell encounters that demand pixel-perfect evasion and relentless shooting. The sheer number of creative, unique encounters ensures a high return on investment for fans of old-school difficulty. The humiliation is built into the game's charming aesthetic. The boss's exaggerated movements and constant mocking expressions ensure that your frustration is framed within a whimsical, yet extremely difficult, cartoon. It's a game that forces you to smile while you internally rage. It's a perfect, high-quality experience for those who enjoy being visually and mechanically ridiculed by a cartoon villain. Dead Cells is the essence of a rewarding action roguelite, and the main source of its humiliation is the ultimate opponent, the Hand of the King. This boss doesn't engage in long monologues or thematic ridicule. He simply treats your current run, your carefully curated build, your precious scrolls, your hours of dedication with cold, brutal finality. He is the executioner who unceremoniously ends your life, sending you straight back to the sewers with a quick, devastating combo. The core value of the game lies in its dynamic, fast-paced combat, its massive variety of weapons and mutations, and the sheer unpredictability of its runs. It's an endlessly replayable title that constantly rewards player skill and discovery. But the Hand of the King acts as the perfect gatekeeper, an entity who views you as a transient anomaly, a run that needs to be reset. The humiliation comes from the cold, mechanical reality of the roguelite loop. Every time you stand before the Hand, he reminds you that your progress is temporary, your power fleeting, and your inevitable demise is simply a matter of course. He destroys your character without ceremony, sending a clear message that you must be fundamentally better on your next attempt. For fans of high-speed, challenging action and permanent progression through temporary setbacks, Dead Cells is an invaluable, high-octane purchase. Remnant. From the Ashes delivers its humbling experience through sheer overwhelming scale. When you face bosses like the World Eater or other gigantic aberrations, their movements and attacks clearly broadcast the message, you are a negligible threat. The humiliation comes from being constantly forced to dodge sweeping, colossal attacks that treat your character like a tiny clay target. The visual disparity between your small, human avatar and these enormous, monstrous entities is the core of the game's condescension. The value proposition here is exceptional, blending third-person shooting with Souls-like progression and challenging boss encounters. The randomized worlds and deep trait system ensure high replayability and continuous discovery. But the difficulty is often tied directly to the boss's capacity to ignore your damage output while delivering brutal one-shot kills. You know that moment when you empty an entire magazine into a colossal enemy and their health bar barely budges? That's the boss treating your firepower like annoying static. Remnant succeeds in creating a dark, desperate atmosphere where humanity is clearly on the losing side. The overwhelming power of the gigantic bosses and their swarm of ads constantly reminds you of your fragility. It's a fantastic, content-rich cooperative and single-player experience that fully warrants its price tag, specifically for the thrill of defeating an enemy that physically treats you like dust. The modern Lords of the Fallen leverages the dual-world mechanic of Axiom and Umbral to deliver a specific kind of spiritual and physical contempt. The bosses in the Umbral realm, the great spiritual figures and vengeful deities, possess an arrogance that goes beyond mere strength. They despise your very mortal existence. They are often towering, ethereal beings who look down upon your grounded, clumsy form, judging your attempts to traverse their dimension as a pathetic trespass. The game is a massive dark fantasy RPG with a strong emphasis on risk and reward, constantly forcing the player to manage two parallel realities for progression and combat. This dual-world system provides significant value and depth. However, the bosses, particularly those tied to the Umbral, frequently employ attacks that feel designed not just to kill but to scoff at your armor and divine protection. When a spiritual boss effortlessly pulls you out of the land of the living, it's a clear statement your mortal shell means nothing to them. It's a dense, challenging game that offers a satisfying, high-fidelity, dark fantasy experience. The visual design and lore effectively convey the sheer divine superiority of your foes. For players seeking a Souls-like experience where the enemies actively look down on your mortal form, Lords of the Fallen delivers a profoundly humbling adventure. Mortal Shell is a game that literally forces you into a state of physical vulnerability, amplifying the boss's inherent arrogance. You start the game as a weak, formless creature, and your shells are merely temporary shields. When you face a powerful boss, especially without your shell, you are a literal one-hit kill. The bosses don't need complex monologues to convey their disdain. Their actions, slow, deliberate, crushing attacks, treat you as if you are a fragile object easily swept aside. The humiliation is raw and tactile. The core gameplay loop centers around the hardened mechanic and utilizing different shells, offering a unique twist on the action RPG formula. Its atmosphere is dense and its combat is weighty, providing a substantial, rewarding experience. But the game's difficulty is inherently tied to the boss's casual superiority, as they often combine massive reach with devastating power, turning your momentary lapse in defense into a quick, decisive squash. The value of Mortal Shell lies in its tight focus and atmosphere, creating a concentrated experience of brutal fantasy. The boss's design, massive, distorted, and indifferent, makes the struggle feel intensely personal and futile. It's a worthwhile title for those who enjoy the feeling of being perpetually outgunned and reliant on a single, well-timed defensive move to survive the contempt of their colossal foes. This is perhaps the most unique form of humiliation on the list. The 16 Colossi in Shadow of the Colossus are the very definition of indifference. They don't attack you out of malice or ego. They attack you because you are an irritating pest climbing on their bodies. They act purely on instinct, treating the protagonist, Wander, as if he were an actual insect scaling them. The most humiliating factor is that they do not try to kill you in a personal way. You are beneath their concern. The game's value is legendary. Built on its emotional narrative, grand scale, and the singular focus of its gameplay, find the Colossus, figure out its weakness, and ascend its body. Each encounter is a puzzle and a cinematic event. The true genius lies in the boss's lack of engagement. When a Colossus shakes you off, it's not a tactical move, it's the equivalent of a dog shaking water off its back, proving your attacks are nothing more than a momentary distraction. Shadow of the Colossus is an essential, high-quality adventure that excels at making the player feel desperately small against forces of nature. The humiliation is quiet and profound. You are not worthy of their attention, only their casual physical reaction to an irritant. For the moving experience and unparalleled sense of scale, it remains a must-buy title. Bayonetta 3 flips the script by making the enemy's perceived superiority feel like a joke. While the bosses are massive, often multi-phased cosmic entities called homunculi, Bayonetta's entire attitude is one of supreme glamorous condescension right back at them. However, the enemy's massive size and devastating attacks still functionally treat the player like a tiny plaything, even if Bayonetta herself refuses to acknowledge it. When a homunculus's foot nearly crushes her, the sheer scale implies a profound gap in power. The game is a visual spectacle and a masterclass in stylish, fast-paced action. Its value comes from the incredibly deep combat system, the use of demon slave summons, and the sheer variety of weapons and levels. The battles are designed to be over-the-top, multi-stage affairs where the enemy initially dominates the screen, suggesting their immense power. You often have to summon a giant demon just to level the playing field, a subtle admission that you are individually dwarfed. Ultimately, the humor and attitude of the protagonist don't negate the fact that these enemies are functionally treating her like a mosquito buzzing around their enormous heads. Bayonetta 3 is a fun, stylish, high-content action game that delivers a constant stream of massive threats, even if your heroine is too cool to notice her own peril. Furi is a game built entirely around boss fights, and the bosses are not shy about their opinions of you. This is the ultimate example of direct verbal humiliation. Before, during, and after combat phases, the bosses, often called the Guardians, speak directly to the player, humiliating and underestimating you the whole time. They are philosophical, arrogant jailers who pity your struggle and mock your desperation to escape. The entire fight is framed as a test you are clearly failing, according to them. The immense value of Furi lies in its relentless focus on twin-stick shooting and rhythmic parry-based sword combat. It's a high-intensity, short-burst experience where the mastery of pattern recognition and timing is everything. The game has immense replayability through higher difficulties and the satisfying pursuit of perfect runs. But every time a Guardian delivers a condescending line about your weakness or inevitable return, it fuels the humiliation. The boss dialogue acts as a constant psychological barrier, forcing you to not only conquer their demanding bullet hell patterns, but also to ignore their smug certainty of your failure. It's a beautifully designed, high-quality action game that proves great value can come in a concentrated, challenging package where verbal abuse is part of the gameplay loop. Castlevania Lords of Shadow provides its humbling moments through a series of epic mythological confrontations. Gabriel Belmont, despite being a powerful knight, is consistently pitted against ancient entities, vampires, mythical beasts, and fallen angels, who regard him as a negligible pawn. When the gigantic Titan bosses appear, they don't even seem to register Gabriel as a threat until he's actively climbing their bodies. The mythological chiefs treat Gabriel like an ant. The game is a massive cinematic action-adventure that offers tremendous value through its lengthy campaign, diverse combat upgrades, and stunning visual spectacle. The combat, while flashy, often leaves you feeling overwhelmed by the sheer size and raw supernatural power of your foes. The boss's massive scale and their ability to summon colossal attacks reinforce the idea that your struggle is minor, a tiny disruption in their eternal existence. The core narrative is one of Gabriel desperately trying to fight against forces that are inherently superior, providing a constant sense of David versus Goliath. Lords of Shadow is a high-production, worthwhile entry in the hack-and-slash genre that fully delivers on the epic scale, even if that scale means the protagonist is constantly being looked down upon by godlike entities. In Wolong Fallen Dynasty, The humiliation comes primarily from the arrogance of the great historical generals and the demonic entities they become. Set in the turbulent Three Kingdoms period, your enemies aren't just powerful, they are famous, legendary figures. When they defeat you, they ridicule you without pity, because you have dared to challenge their established might and military prowess. Their dismissiveness is rooted in their superior reputation and supernatural power. The game is a fast-paced action RPG that blends Souls-like mechanics with a focus on aggressive deflection and a fluid martial arts system. The value is found in the deep morale system, the vast array of weapons, and the challenging boss rush of historical figures. However, the bosses, like Lu Bu, move with a terrifying speed and confidence, turning your attempts at defense into clumsy missteps. The frequent cinematic moments before a boss fight establish their status as legendary, near unbeatable figures, making your efforts feel like an insignificant annoyance to their destiny. Wo Long is a solid, high-content entry into the genre, offering a dynamic combat experience where the contempt of historical legends is the main obstacle to your progress. Blasphemous bathes its humiliation in religious and mystical symbolism. The bosses, products of the miracle, are often grotesque, beautiful, or terrifying, and their power is explicitly divine and overwhelming. They don't just kill you, they physically and symbolically crush you under the weight of guilt, penance, and their corrupted divinity. You, the penitent one, are a fragile vessel of pain, constantly reminded that your quest is one of suffering and sacrifice against cosmic, merciless powers. The value of Blasphemous lies in its phenomenal pixel art, its deeply entrenched, fascinating lore, and its brutally difficult platforming and combat. It's a rich Metroidvania experience that rewards exploration and mastery. The humiliation factor is extremely high. The boss's designs and attacks often evoke strong, unsettling religious imagery, suggesting your failure is not just mechanical but spiritual. When a boss like the giant flaming baby or a tormented giant saint annihilates you, the action carries the weight of divine judgment. Blasphemous is a unique, high-quality, dark fantasy adventure that is worth every penny for its art direction and oppressive atmosphere, constantly forcing the player to fight against overwhelming, symbolically superior beings. Dante's Inferno takes us straight to the source of existential dread. As Dante, you journey through the circles of hell, and the bosses, the infernal creatures and mythological guardians, are explicitly designed to treat you as a mere, impotent mortal. The sheer scale of enemies like Charon or the gigantic Minos instantly establishes that Dante is a speck in the face of eternal damnation. The game offers significant value as a fast-paced hack-and-slash action title with engaging combat, extensive upgrades for both the Scythe and the Holy Cross, and a massive, memorable journey through the Nine Circles. But the humiliation is tied directly to the source material. You are a human trespassing in a realm where the inhabitants hold all the power. When a multi-story demonic creature swipes you away with contemptuous ease, it reinforces the narrative that you are a temporary, weak intrusion into their infernal domain. Dante's Inferno is a worthwhile action epic that successfully conveys the terrifying scale of its setting, ensuring that every victory against an infernal creature is a hard-fought battle against an enemy who believes you should have given up ages ago. So there you have it, 20 single-player titles where the bosses don't just challenge you, they actively, brutally remind you how insignificant you are. These aren't just games, they are premium-grade lessons in humility, where the value is measured in the sheer depth of content and the sweet, sweet taste of overcoming insurmountable arrogance. We know you've been knocked down by a few of these towering terrors, so which boss taught you the harshest lesson in knowing your place? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through gaming's most condescending foes, hit that like button, subscribe for more breakdowns, and check out the video that should be on your screen right now. The realm of gaming's greatest challenges always has another humiliating defeat waiting to be conquered.